Is there any declarations of conflict of interest from anyone?
Not for me, no.
Okay, thank you. Can I have approval of the agenda?
Sure.
Moved by Councilor Duran, second by Councilor McKinnon. Approval of the minutes for March 25th, 2024.
Move.
Moved by Councilor McKinnon, second by Councilor Duran. Any business arising from the minutes?
No.
Seeing none, we'll move into reports, discussions. We have the consultants with us on the Fiona replanting plan, so we'll let Simon, you want to take it first?
Only to introduce them, just to say that I think we all remember 19 months ago, Fiona made landfall as the largest and most intense storm to impact the Atlantic region. So as we transition from a sort of a crisis response to this catastrophe and more into a long-term strategic plan for restoration, we concluded we needed to scale this, the impacts of Fiona, and also to look at strategies for restoration. So in November, we bought Dugan and Associates online to produce us a report that really provided us that scale for what Fiona did, and then make recommendations for strategies to restore it on a reasonable timeline. So I hopefully can hand over to them. Is Janelle and Heather here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yep, I'm just going to share my screen. Can you guys just confirm that you're able to see that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
We cannot yet.
Yeah, I'll just try again if you guys aren't able to see that yet.
We think it's on our end because our online counselor can see it. So
Okay, I've just reshared it now again, so.
oh, there it is. We can see now.
Perfect, okay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our research and findings with you for the City of Charlottetown post-Fiona urban forest restoration strategy. Oh, my name's Heather Shibley, and I am a landscape architect, ecologist, and arborist with Dugan and Associates, as Simon mentioned. And I'd also like to introduce Janelle Sauter, who's sharing her slides, and she is our senior GIS analyst who led this project.
Thanks, Heather, and good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to be speaking about the findings and recommendations that we outlined in our report, including the canopy losses and distribution since Fiona, the impacts to carbon sequestration, the recommended restoration strategies and goals, and the recommendations for planting for resilience. So the first step of the project was to model the canopy cover in 2022 and 2023 so that we could assess and quantify the impacts of Fiona. So this was done using machine learning. The flowchart illustrates how we did this. There are two main inputs, the training data and the imagery input. So the training data is a set of example areas used to teach the model. The image on the right shows the example areas that we outlined for canopy in green. The imagery input is the data that the model uses to find patterns and relationships based on the examples provided and predicts where the canopy coverage is. For this project, a combination of satellite imagery and aerial imagery was used. So basically, the model's looking at the air photo and looking at the areas that we tell it are canopy, and then it's looking for areas that are similar and classifying those areas as canopy as well. So as with all models, there's a degree of error that occurs. The 2022 canopy cover classification had an accuracy of 86.7%, and the 2023 was 73.4%. Both of these models are considered to have high abilities for predicting where canopy is. When we compared the two modeled canopy covers, our analysis showed that following Fiona, Charlottetown experienced a 1.49 kilometer squared loss in canopy cover, which is just slightly smaller than the entire area of Ward 3 for some context. This decline is a 3.3% reduction in the overall percentage of canopy cover and a total loss of 15.7% of the pre-Fiona canopy level. We use the loss of canopy to extrapolate an estimated total number of trees down from Fiona, which totaled approximately 12,600 mature trees. The map here illustrates the distribution of canopy loss. The green is showing the current canopy cover remaining, and the red is the canopy cover lost from Fiona. We ran several summaries to better understand the distribution of canopy loss by ward, land type, parks, riparian areas, and woodlands, which I'm going to be going into more detail on the following slides. First, we'll take a look at the impacts by ward. The map illustrates the reduction in canopy. So the darker the red, the more severe the canopy was impacted. Ward 1 had the most significant damage with a reduction of 35%. The higher losses incurred in Ward 1 could be correlated with the older, mature trees in the downtown core area or from damaged root structures. However, it's complicated to draw conclusions as the damage could also be attributed to wind pattern dynamics from the storm or phenomena such as the Venturi effect, where air flows faster between tall buildings. Next is the impacts by land type. So the land types with the greatest canopy loss was commercial and mixed-use residential at 28%, and then that was followed by employment and industrial at 20%. There are 116 municipal parks in Charlottetown, spanning 217 hectares. The total canopy cover in parks was reduced from 38.8% to 33.6%. Notably, 32 parks currently exhibit extremely low canopy cover with less than 10% coverage. The images here are examples of some of these parks with very low canopy cover. Also of note, another 30 municipal parks have between 10 and 20% coverage, which is also quite low. Riparian areas serve as critical safeguards for watercourses and wetlands and provide connections between natural areas. Notable observations include Hermitage Creek experiencing a significant loss of 24% of its canopy, and Wrights Creek witnessed a decrease of 14%. The graph shows the pre-Fiona canopy cover in dark green, and the current canopy cover is in light green, so it's illustrating the decreases caused by Fiona. Woodlands saw a reduction in canopy cover by 17%. Many woodlands had large patches of canopy cover damage. The images here are displaying examples of downed trees within woodland areas. There were a total of 90 patches of canopy loss that exceeded 1,000 meters squared, and 8 patches exceeded 10,000 meters squared. So urban forests are significant sources, carbon sinks, and can serve as nature-based solution to climate change while also providing various benefits to urban populations. The estimated carbon storage of Charlottetown's current urban forests is 48,625 tons, and the carbon sequestration rate is 2,684 tons per year. To increase the existing canopy cover and carbon sequestration by 1%, a total of 47.3 hectares of canopy cover would need to be added. And to increase the canopy cover and carbon sequestration rates back to the pre-Fiona coverage, plus an additional 1%, a total of 195.4 hectares of canopy cover would need to be added, which is just slightly larger than the entire area of Ward 3. So next I'm going to be speaking about the recommended implementation strategies to restore the urban forest canopy. So this includes covering the overall canopy cover targets for the city. We'll take a look into the public plantable areas available, go through some citywide strategic goals to achieve restoration of the canopy, tree equity targets, and then the prioritization of planting areas. So a phased implementation process of planting is proposed to meet the goal of restoring the urban forest to pre-Fiona levels within the next 10 years. So phase 1 is over the next 5 years, increase canopy cover by 1%. And then phase 2 is within 10 years, restore the canopy cover to its pre-Fiona state. So in the first 5 years, 11,120 trees will need to be planted annually. And then continuing from year 6 to 10, 5,700 trees will need to be planted annually. So to determine the feasibility and to recommend planting strategies, we mapped out the public plantable areas based on land types and recommended planting offsets. So there's a total of 282 hectares of plantable land available, and that doesn't include areas zoned as airport. The distribution of these lands are illustrated on the map and include 96 hectares on municipal properties, 123 hectares on other public lands, 40 hectares on municipal right-of-ways, and 23 hectares on provincial right-of-ways. So based on the assessment of the city's current canopy cover and also the plantable areas available, 5 strategic goals have been formulated to enhance the canopy cover in the next decade. So goal 1 is to enhance canopy cover in all parks by 30%. Goal 2 is to improve canopy cover of downed woodland areas to 50%. Goal 3 is to enhance canopy cover in all riparian areas to reach 45%. Goal 4 is to raise the canopy cover along the Confederation Trail to 25% and along the active transportation pathway to 20%. And then goal 5 is to utilize the other open spaces and streets to meet the overall canopy and ward targets. So as is the case with most cities, Charlottetown's urban canopy is not equally dispersed by ward. And to offset these discrepancies, replanting initiatives should prioritize wards with lower canopy cover percentages. By focusing on tree equity, the strategy aims to rectify historical imbalances in canopy coverage and ensure equitable access to nature for all residents. So based on the current canopy cover, each ward has been assigned a planting priority level and an associated 5 and 10-year increase target. For example, Ward 1 and Ward 4 have been highlighted as a critical priority as they currently have less than 14% canopy cover. The graph here shows the current canopy coverage percentage in the dark green, and then the 5-year and 10-year increase targets are stacked above it. We've also developed recommended planting plans for each ward that provide specific recommendations on the number of trees to plant to meet not only the ward targets, but also the citywide strategic goals. And these are all based on the land types present and the plantable areas available within the ward. So the table is an example of the planting locations distributions for Ward 2. The ward requires 5,108 trees to be planted to reach its ward canopy cover target. And this is the recommended breakdown of trees by planting type. So for example, based on the goal of enhancing all parks to 30% canopy cover, it has been calculated that 790 trees need to be planted within parks in Ward 2. The planting should be prioritized to focus on easily accessible locations and ecological benefits first. So we've created a ranking of planting locations, which are listed here. For example, municipal parks with significant additional ecosystem benefits is the highest priority, while publicly owned land zoned as airport with minimal additional ecosystem benefits is ranked as the lowest priority. This strategy ensures efficient implementation and quick deployment of planting activities while simultaneously targeting ecosystem benefits, such as improving connectivity, enhancing riparian zones, and buffering wetlands, woodlands, and shorelines to maximize the ecological impacts of tree planting efforts. So we've mapped out all the locations of these ecological benefits for the city. For example, this map shows the location of linkages we've modeled for the city.
All right, so Janelle's showing you where Fiona's impacts have taken place along with goals set to restore Charlottetown's urban forest canopy to pre-Fiona cover. The following slides highlight some of the strategies and species selections to assist the city realize their planting goals. A guideline often referenced in urban forestry is that of the 10-20-30 rule, which is a best management practice to maintain diversity. The urban forest should have no more than 10% of any one species, 20% of any one genus, and 30% of any one family. And this practice promotes diversity and minimizes the risk of complete loss due to species-specific pathogens and pests. Now, using the existing data as a representative sample of species that occur within the city, only a few taxonomic groups exceed the proposed targets. Notably enlisted here is Norway maple and white spruce, which currently exceed the 10% representation threshold. Another method utilized by urban forestry departments to encourage tree species diversity is that of the Urban Site Index. And this method is a means to determine urban tolerance thresholds of the various species present within the city by evaluating the conditions within which they thrive. This provides a ranking of each species' urban tolerance. So we have provided tolerances based on the Ohio environment in the report, and it would be best to assess the Charlottetown context. But the Ohio reference provides guidance in the interim. Once the species have been ranked, planting areas are likewise assessed and ranked. After both sites and species are ranked, it becomes a lot clearer where specific species should be planted. The goal behind this approach is to avoid planting highly urban tolerant species in good condition sites. These good condition sites really should be reserved for sensitive species, thereby providing the opportunity to plant more species diversity across the city. And likewise, for size, small trees should not be planted in sites that can accommodate large trees, just like how large trees should not be planted in sites that can only accommodate small trees. These goals sound obvious. However, it is easy to mismatch a species to a site without first performing a standardized inventory and assessment. This approach is systematic and provides a framework for urban forest planning. We've mapped out poor, intermediate, and good condition sites based on the USI method through a desktop analysis. Given we had limited data to develop this map, each site should be field verified before selecting a species for planting. All right, so the last two approaches guide species selection. This approach, known as the Miyawaki method or mini forest, promotes planting forest communities as a planting unit in place of planting individual trees. So just think bigger. And as you likely know, Charlottetown already has 2 mini forests, which were planted in June of last year. This method was developed in Japan by Dr. Miyawaki over the last 50 years to promote biodiversity and climate adaptation. So for instance, the Great Forest Wall Project, which is a series of Miyawaki forests along Japan's coastline, has replaced some of the concrete seawalls that crumbled during the catastrophic 2011 tsunami. These forests grow and adapt collectively, proving to be resilient to severe weather patterns. Much like the Miyawaki approach, planting trees closely together, even in streetscapes, has proven more resilient to extreme weather events than individually planted trees. Those findings come out of Florida, the epicenter of hurricane and tree-related research. However, this research also notes that root structure and soil volume plays a critical role in tree stability. When trees are planted in clusters and their roots have been properly teased apart at planting, these roots will create a lattice that better anchors the trees to the ground. Restoration and buffer planting strategies come from restoration ecology and can be utilized within and surrounding natural areas in the city. Buffer plantings typically include thicket and dense shrub plantings that protect interior forest habitats from surrounding pressures like increased heat and various forms of encroachment. Restoration planting entails planting locally native species well suited to the site, and this could be planting wetland species in riparian areas and woodland species in a forest context. By planting these species, those genetics and seed sources are reintroduced into the site. These are all approaches that are listed in the report. And then inspired by the recent Science Climate Report for the city of Charlottetown, we utilized the same climate modeling tool, which is spatial analogs from climatedata.ca, as well as a seed lot selection tool. Both are pictured here. These models pointed to a swath of land south of the Great Lakes that is a good indicator of Charlottetown's predicted future climate over the next 40 to 70 years. Two analog cities were selected, Columbus, Ohio, and Stamford, Connecticut. They're both listed here to populate a species list for proposed assisted migration. We collaborated with the city of Charlottetown to develop several plant lists based on historical, current, and predicted future contexts. These lists include species native to the island, to the Wabanaki Acadian forest, and to the eastern deciduous forest. And cultivars that were selected for specific conditions supplemented these species lists. So here's an example of one of the report's many plant lists. This one lists species that are not currently present on Prince Edward Island, but they are just south, either in the Wabanaki Acadian forest or as part of the eastern deciduous forest. In review, this report explores canopy loss and distribution since Fiona, subsequent carbon sequestration impacts, restoration strategies and goals, and planting for resilience. It was our great pleasure to work with the City of Charlottetown. Thank you for your time, and we welcome your questions.
Hey, thank you, Heather and Janelle. Any questions, Councilor Duran or Councilor McKinnon, any questions on the report?
No, I'm good, Terry. Thank you.
Just one. Thank you, Heather and Janelle, for your report. Just a question. When you were showing the graph for plantable areas, notice the area around the airport was the most green. And typically, don't airports remove the trees from around their area? So have they been consulted for planting trees?
They have not been consulted at that point, but all of our calculations, maybe I can pull up that image again, but the map does have hatching over anywhere that's zoned as airport. So those areas we recognize have major restrictions, and we did use the Ministry of Transportation's offsets of how far away from the actual runway trees can't be planted. And then, so the areas that are zoned as airport and have been marked as plantable, those are plantable as far as our understanding is right now. But our calculations in terms of what was used to determine what's plantable in that ward or plantable in the different planting locations, we didn't actually use those areas for those calculations. So we still made sure that all of the goals could be met without touching any of the areas zoned as airport.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my second question. If you took the area of the airport out, your calculations, they would still fit to what you presented. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. No problem.
Anybody else? I just have a couple. I'm just wondering, can you go back to the slide that shows the previous canopy and then the work that you're recommending that to bring the canopy up to standard? Yeah. Just went by.
Was it this one? This is
the dark green, light green graphs.
Okay.
Just went by it.
Oh, for the targets for the awards.
Right
yeah. Here you go.
So if I'm to interpret that correctly, the existing coverage for 2023 is in the black.
That's right. The very dark green. Yep.
So with your target increase, is that to bring it up to where it was before Fiona? Is that the goal?
The goal is to bring it back to where it was Fiona, but it's also to look at the wards and try and create a more equitable span of canopy cover across all wards. So some of the wards that had very low canopy cover before Fiona, bringing those up to be closer to some of the other wards. You'll see that the end goal for all of them isn't a totally equal amount. So it is, those goals are also based on the amount of area that is plantable in those wards as well.
And that's what my question was, how did you determine that, and what areas are plantable? You look at some of the wards, I'm kind of wondering, was there less canopy before Fiona hit because of less desirable areas to plant the trees, or did you just look at different areas within the city that had forest areas that have been pretty well leveled? So was that taken into consideration, some of the forestry areas that as we look in them, we see that a lot of it's leveled? So,
Yeah, so all of those areas that we only looked at the plantable areas that are on public properties. We didn't look at the private lands, as that'll take a lot more work with the city in terms of consultation. So we looked at the woodland areas that were leveled for sure, and those are plantable. And we've also recommended in our report that those areas be assessed as well to determine if there's natural regeneration or whether those or they need other types of management plans, like invasive species management plans, in order for that to restore, or whether planting needs to be completed. So those areas would have been taken into account when we're determining the amount of area that is plantable as well. I'm not sure if that totally answers your question.
well, yeah, I think I know where you're going. I noticed in the report, like you had the breakdown for the different wards of how many trees and where those trees should be planted. So obviously you guys looked into areas where canopy should be addressed in each ward then.
Yeah, for sure. So that the areas that are within woodlands, they have the goal of restoring back to 50% within the next 10 years. And that's based on just the growth rate of trees. So that's with the goal of, by maturity of the trees, that it will get back to 100% coverage there. So the goal is for those areas to be completely restored by the time they become mature.
Okay. So just as an example, Janelle, like I'm going to look at, what ward is this? The example for Ward 4. Park trees, you got a little over 500. Open space trees, you got a little over 9,000. Highway right-of-way, 0. Private trees, 0. Street trees, 147. Those numbers would have came from what? How did you?
So those numbers are based on the goals. So those are based on the goals of reaching 30% coverage in all parks. So that's how that park number was calculated. The number for how much to plant within the woodland areas within that ward is based on reaching that 50% coverage in those downed areas. And same with the other goals as well along trails. And then once those goals are fulfilled, then it's using those open spaces and areas along the streets to meet the overall targets for the ward,
So
which is based on this existing canopy level targets.
Okay. And can I just go to the slide of the tree planting over the next 5 and next 10 years?
Oh, we gotta go back for that one. This one here?
Yeah, so over the next 5 years, to get 1%, we needed to plant 11,000 trees?
That's right. So to get to 1% increase over the next 5 years, 11,120 trees per year need to be planted, and that's based on the breakdown of these different stock sizing as well.
So then if I understand, the next 6 to 10 years, you're talking about 5,700 trees per year?
Yep, that's right.
And Simon, how many trees have we been planting on average in the city? Like how many did we plant last year?
Last year, we were up to about 2,600 and something. This year, we look at, with current resources, we're looking at a little under 4,000, so 3,600, 3,700, something like that.
Is that including Public Works and Parks and Rec planting their trees?
Yeah, it's the everything combined, and working with the Ellens Creek and Wrights Creek watershed groups as well to do planting. So it's the team effort.
Okay, so the recommendation says to triple that, basically.
Yes, but
That's doable.
the other thing we have to bear in mind is that we have to come up with a estimate of the number of trees that we would assume that private residences, businesses, and institutions will be planting as well. The urban forest is a partnership between all parties, so individuals will be planting trees as well to replace some. So while this number does look at a high number of trees to remove, we can always think about some of it will be planted by groups without our intervention along the way. And as Janelle and Heather mentioned, there is some natural regeneration as well that will happen. So, we have to up our game significantly to get back to a pre-Fiona level for sure. I like to think of it as double what we're currently doing.
The natural generation, though, is not included in their numbers. They're saying, they're even giving the sizes of the trees to be planted. Is that correct, Janelle?
Yeah, that's correct. So this is based on an assumption that no natural regeneration is possible. So in our report, we've recommended that the city go to those areas that have been downed in the woodland areas to assess what percentage of those areas can naturally regenerate, or what type of management needs to happen in order for those to naturally regenerate. So based on those assessments, you will be able to determine some of reduction of trees that will need to be planted in those areas. But that wasn't quite within our scope of this project.
Okay, all right. No, thank you very much. I have no more questions unless anybody else does. Go ahead, Trevor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. Back on the target slide, the first one that Terry asked to see, you have the very last category, ward unassigned. What is that? Because I thought everything was.
Okay, I'm gonna flip back a ways for a second just to get a map of the ward. So that's this Ward 0, the annexed ward up here. Or sorry, you can't see that screen, but you should be able to see my mouse here. It's in the kind of the upper east side.
Yeah.
All right. And Mr. Chair, you can correct me on this, but is the airport, is that not part of Brackley, or is that part of Charlottetown?
The airport's in Charlottetown.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Councilor Duran? You have any questions?
No, I do not. Thank you very much.
All right, no. Again, thank you, Heather and Janelle. Really appreciate it. Good job.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
So we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So for time, I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all the reports today. Well, we can receive it, or we can, no, right now, I think I would put a resolution through to receive the report, because council hasn't seen this yet. So, do you want to move that?
Are we bringing it to council for information for the
Yeah, but we
Sure.
we can recommend receiving it now.
Yep.
Right. Bobby, you okay second it?
Yes?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, for time, I just kind of want to go with the importance. So I think there's some issues we need to deal with. I know management would like to talk a couple of things that we need to go to closed session. It meets section 119(1)(a) and B. So if I can have a mover and seconder to go in and discuss that, it has to do with the transit depot. Sure. Thank you, Councilor McKinnon. Bob?
Sure, yep.
Thank you. So we'll move into a closed session. Thank you, everyone. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, second by Bob?
Yep,
Okay.
sure.
We are getting late in time. To transit bus purchase, if we can jump to that. Jessica? Or I guess we got to wait till we get back to open session. We're good? Hey, welcome back. Next on the agenda is the transit bus purchase. Jessica?
Okay, that's me.
Thanks, Albert.
Thanks, Albert. Okay, so I'll keep it short and sweet. The city is investing in new fleet for transit. We have 3 diesel buses on order right now with Nova Bus. And this is through our ISEP funding agreement with federal, provincial, municipal dollars all put in. So in the fall of 2023, we awarded 3 diesel buses to Nova Bus. Since then, in an effort to increase the amount of buses we get more quickly because the fleet is in need, ISEP has approved us adjusting our fleet plan to get less electric buses and increase our diesel order to 6. So that's already gone through council, that's already been approved, that's already been amended by ISEP. So the report before you today is to request council support to increase our order with Nova Bus from 3 to 6 buses. So that, I'll repeat, so that RFP went out, Nova Bus was successful. This was in the fall of 2023, and they, the 3 buses were awarded to them. We're asking to add 3 more buses. I'll also point out that because of the time difference between the last RFP submission and when we would order the new buses, there will be a cost increase, and that's in the report showing how they do that calculation, which I believe to be fair and above board. But even with those increases, their cost is still below the second best price in the original RFP. So again, the request is to increase the order in order for us to get fleet a little bit more faster. And basically, that's the request.
Okay, so, excuse me. That was my question, because I just wondered under our procurement policy, can we just do another 3 buses? And it's $814,000, it's the new price for the buses, correct? But you're saying that's still lower than what came in as a second, okay. So, does finance have any issues with that?
Unfortunately, Dan left the room. But when I spoke to finance before, they recommended that we go to council, so
Jessica, what's the delivery date approximate?
So the
Those
first
6
3 are
buses.
coming fall 2024, and then if we proceed within the next, buses are in hot demand, so they're basically holding a spot for a potential increase. And we have to let them know within the next couple of weeks, and if we secure that spot, they can deliver them in the winter of 2025, the next shipment of 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to save time too by doing it this
Yeah.
way. So it's just as long as it's legal for us to go to extend this. And I know we've done it in the past. I know we've added on.
Yeah,
So if the finance tendering is okay with it, then yeah,
Okay.
I guess we're okay with it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it will go to council for the next council meeting. I can chat with finance to triple check, but that was my understanding of what could happen.
Anna, did you want?
If I can just add to that, I just want to emphasize.
Just go to the microphone.
I just want to emphasize that these 6 buses are not to grow the fleet size, but they will replace buses that are aging out of our existing fleet. So if this order was not placed, and the Cassidys do an amazing job of keeping the buses on the road well beyond the
Yeah.
reasonable lifetime. If these were not ordered or not delivered in a timely fashion, it could impact our ability to deliver services.
No, yeah, no, I seen that in the report. I'm just wondering, just as long as it's legal, I don't want to get ordering it and then
Yeah.
somebody come back and say, wasn't the proper procedure, what have you, so. And like I said, I know we've extended before, just, we haven't in the sum for over $2 million. So, anyway, but if it's, I think it helps if they're still lower priced than what came in second, so I think we're fine. Okay. Do you want a resolution for that to come to council?
To go to council, yeah.
Okay. Trevor, move it. Bob, you second it?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, that doesn't have to go through procurement, Jessica? Maybe we can just add
So
on?
the original order did go through procurement and an RFP was issued. So I believe, I'm going to confirm with finance, but I did speak to finance about this. I believe there might be a 1-year window from when the quotes came in, so that we can adjust the order.
I'm just looking at time here. I guess I'm going to go to the, is Katrina online? Katrina?
Not yet. She was hopping back on just a second ago.
Yeah, but Katrina's just not a priority that needs to be done today, is it?
If she's not there, then I would move
Okay.
to the next one.
Yep, Nick? Switch additional funding? No, sorry. You're doing the, I thought you were doing the greenhouse gas for commercial.
The greenhouse gas was portion was part of the annual
Oh,
report.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Go ahead.
thank you. As we're all aware, our switch program has been very successful up to this point, but the original funding for that has been all allocated. But we've been in touch with FCM to talk about what other funding is available, if we can extend the existing funding. And they've let us know that based on a few criteria, they would be open to increasing our existing funding that we already have by about $2,780,000, a little bit more than that.
2.7 million?
$2.7 million, sorry. With the criteria that it needs to be matched with third-party private capital funding. And also that, as a bridging gap to a sustainable project that is self-sustaining from here on out. Switch Pace CIC, which is now the current name of Pace Atlantic, they're willing to put forward the matching $2.7 million of the private capital financing. So there's no additional financial requirements from the city to apply for this funding.
So it's a similar program that we had before, only the interest rate's different.
All it is just an extension of that previous loan with the same terms, so it's still a 0% loan from FCM. But with the additional $2.7 million of private capital, that carries some interest that, that the homeowners would then be required. So a change to the program would mean just a low income or low interest loan instead of being a zero interest loan.
Okay.
With the zero interest loan from FCM and the lower interest loan from the private capital, it's going to be a bit of a mix of, and it's a little uncertain what the interest would be, but it just
I assume
estimates
it'd be
about.
half of what they're charged today, so.
Yeah, it's an estimate of about 5% or so is what it would kind of look like, maybe a bit less.
So would it be 5 or would it be half that? Because you're getting 0% for half the money.
Yeah,
2.5, 3% maybe?
it's sounding like it's about 5%, but it's we'll need to get Switch Pace to kind of confirm those numbers for us. Right now, FCM is just looking for a resolution from our council to agree to the terms of the loan, and then they will write up an agreement, a funding agreement for us.
So, Nick, the products that people were able to get through the Switch program would be the insulation, the windows, the doors, heat pumps, things that the province offers now. Now, the province offers that free for under 100,000. So this is more of a program now become for people make more than 100,000. I think the province is going moving their increase up. So this has become a program really for people that don't meet the criteria for their program.
Yeah, it's kind of a program that fills in any gaps that aren't being covered by the federal or province. The provincial programs, they've got the free heat pump, free, for certain people, there's free hot water heaters and the insulation. So this kind of covers any that aren't being covered already by those programs.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Councillor Duran, any questions?
So there's
No, I don't, Terry, thank you.
there's a few other kind of recommendations from this
Oh,
report.
sorry, Nick, go ahead. Yeah.
So the summary of the three recommendations are to approve an amendment to the current FCM loan agreement, which is the additional 2.7 million with a matching 2.7 million that SwitchPace would be supplying. The second would be to approve a refresh of the service agreement with SwitchPace, subject to approval by the CAO. And then third would be, once FCM confirms the agreement, is to relaunch the Switch program, which is currently in a kind of a winding down phase right now.
So who's the other funder? Who's the matching funder?
So SwitchPace uses, I think it's Van City, is like a, they supply, or they provide PACE financing, or they collect private capital and supply that financing to PACE programs across Canada.
So is there any cost to the city at all?
There's just kind of the continued administration fees that we kind of pay on a monthly basis. There's no additional grant as part of this funding. It's just the loan portion of it.
So they used to cover administrative costs, to cover that?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So going forward, we will need to budget. This year, we're kind of covered with the previous funding, but going forward, we will need to budget the administration sort of portion of it.
Okay, and this program will go until the funds dry up, until they're allocated?
Well, the idea is that we'll use this funding to kind of transition to more of a self-sustaining that will be fully financed by private capital financing. That's kind of the idea, is that they'll provide this funding if we provide them with a plan going forward of how we will transition to a self-sustaining program.
So is there an end date though, Nick, or is it when the funding runs out? Like, is it a 2-year program, or is it till the funding runs out?
It's till the funding runs out, but there is a point, I think 2026, when we start repaying the loan, and that term hasn't changed. So that was the original term that we pay back the loan. And so that hasn't changed. It'll be just an additional 2.7 million from FCM on top of the original 7.2 million that we got.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, you guys okay to move that ahead, council?
Sure.
Mover and a seconder?
Yep.
Moved by Bob Duran, second by Trevor. Thank you. Provincial Energy Research, that's the one that we've been talking about with agreeing with the province to move ahead with their study on possibilities of making Maritime Electric a Crown Corporation, see what they have to go through. You did a good job, by the way, on the write-up on that. So, very good. Everybody okay with moving that ahead, council? That's what that, just a.
Sure.
That was, we brought it up at our last meeting here. But there was no resolution prepared. The CAO would prefer we put everything through a notice of motion. So we did that. Although we had talked about it at our last committee, we did a notice of motion. And so today, the information's in your package just done. It's just agreeing with the province to move ahead with the study to see if Maritime Electric can and what it would take to become a Crown Corporation to, at the end of the day, see if we could save Islanders money on their electricity rates. So, could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Trevor.
Sure.
Thanks, Bob.
No problem.
Okay, that moves ahead, and, sorry?
We do have Katrina back if we wanted to.
Katrina,
Yes.
can you finish your report in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, you're on.
Alrighty. One second. Yeah, so this is just a quick report to update everybody that we have completed the Environment and Sustainability Annual Report for this year. It's really just information and to be received and to be forwarded to council to receive the information.
Yep.
As you'll be familiar, we do it every year. It's an update on the work that we've done in the past year towards the goals of the city's integrated community sustainability plan and community energy plan. It's not just work that our department did, but anything across the organization that contributed to those goals. So just a few quick highlights from this year. We had a record transit ridership with over 1.3 million rides. We planted over 2,600 trees and shrubs. We purchased 2 new hybrid police cruisers. We had the home flood protection rebates, which provided around $77,000 to homeowners for things like sump pumps. We released our community garden framework, which outlines how we support local community gardens, and we launched a new community garden in Charlottetown, and we recycled 50 kilograms of batteries through our participation in the Call to Recycle program. So those, amongst many others, are highlighted in the report. And actually this report was prepared together by myself and Nick, and one of the components of it was our corporate greenhouse gas inventory that we do every year.
Yep.
So I'll just pass it over to him for a couple of minutes to run through a few highlights there.
And just before you jump off there, Katrina.
Sure.
Is there any feedback from the police on the hybrid cruisers they got?
No, I actually have not heard any feedback, but it's something that we can ask them about.
Okay. All right, no, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so last committee meeting, we talked about the community greenhouse gas inventory, which incorporates all the emissions from the entire city. And so these are the corporate emissions. So these are all our fleet, the street lights, our buildings, everything, all electricity and fuel usage emissions. So some key takeaways from this latest corporate inventory is that the emissions have decreased by 17% from the 2015 baseline year. This can be largely attributed to the decrease in electricity and heating fuel emissions. The overall electricity usage has increased, although the emissions factor for the electricity continues to decrease. So essentially our electricity is getting cleaner every year. Transportation fuels have, such as gasoline and diesel, have both increased. So the fleet category has gone up and accounts for 37% of the total emissions. So some targets in our current community energy plan are to reduce corporate greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2033, based on the 2015 baseline. And based on a linear annual reduction of to reach that 40%, the current target for 2023 should be 5,463 tons of carbon dioxide, and what we actually hit in 2023 was 5,900 tons. So just 9% higher than it should be, and you can see in the graph in the report that based on that current trend, we still have a way to go to make that slope, bring that slope down so that we're actually reaching our 40% target.
So Nick, just out of curiosity, it looks like 2021, where our greenhouse gas emissions are falling, and then it took a spike up.
Yeah.
Do we know what caused that?
I would attribute it to, you can see the 2021 or 2020, 2021 obviously are lower due to COVID happening. I would almost consider it an over compensation the next year with maybe more vehicle purchases happening, more vehicles on the road, buildings being used a bit more.
So that's over COVID. People weren't using the transit buses, stuff like that. Okay.
Well, so this is the corporate inventory again. So yeah, it does take into account transit, but it would be our own buildings not being used as much, people working from home, the vehicles maybe not being used as much, that sort of thing. There was a spike in the water and sewer usage in 2022. It was kind of the highest year for that. but then it's gone back down in 2023. So, it's hard to kind of put an explanation on some of those things, but fleet and water and sewer, almost all of the categories were up that year. There's maybe not much more of an explanation than that. Just people getting back to the workforce, I think.
Okay. Okay. That's it for you, Katrina, too?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Good information to have. That's all that I had. Anybody else have any other questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, can I have a mover and a second to adjourn?
Sure.
Moved and seconded, meeting adjourned.